Fucking welcome to 2025, guys. Just roll the music. I really don't want to talk about the character development that I went through over the course of 2024 because I can guarantee you I'm probably going to go through even more during 2025. Fucking... Oh, we're off to a great start. But it will not surprise you to know that this year I didn't really have a lot of mental capacity to play new video games, especially not compared to 2023. If you take a look at this graph, you will see that over the course of 2024, I completely failed to do... damn. Thank you. Well, I guess I'll have to do something for that later, but let's talk about 2024 first. Even though I didn't play a lot of video games, I did play some very high quality ones. It was more of a quality over quantity sort of deal. And like I have for the past couple of years, I'm going to tell you about some of my favorites and hand out some awards to them, because this is the only thing keeping me going. You know the drill by this point. No spoilers, no negativity, and absolutely no deep thinking on any of this shit. This is just going to be one random mouth breather talking to you for however long this video ends up being about some video games that she really enjoyed playing. So let's get started with the very first category of the night. Turnip Boy Robs a Bank is an action-adventure roguelike where you play as the titular Turnip Boy on his quest to, get that bag by robbing the botanical bank, shanking down several innocent bankgoers, and completing a series of side quests over the course of several bank robberies. Being a proud American, there are 3 things that I love in this world and nothing else. Guns, money, and getting away with crime. This game has all of it, and so much more. For legal reasons, this is a joke. I am not a criminal, I promise. I played the original Turnip Boy back in 2023 when I was going through another mental health crisis, and I ended up quite enjoying the game. The Zelda-style gameplay wasn't really my scene, but it was still good enough on its own that when it was announced that there was a sequel coming out, that I was looking forward to playing it. Unlike Tax Evasion though, Robs a Bank I found was much quicker to get its teeth in me because I found that this game was designed in a way that was more suited to my own playstyle. Each heist only lasts 3 minutes before the cops are called, so a handicap is forced on you that encourages you to stay in motion and act fast. It keeps the momentum high as you commit crime after crime, learning the different possible layouts of the building, figuring out which weapons best suit you, and the music! Oh! This song keeps me going while I'm at work, haha! Though the gameplay and pacing is significantly different from the original Turnip Boy, I'm grateful that they kept the side quests. Those were my favorite part of Tax Evasion hands down, so I would have missed them if they got replaced or just cut out. And thank God I am not stuck with that stupid sword again. No shame to the people who enjoy swinging a sword around a la Legend of Zelda, but I am not a hack and slash girly. I'm more of a run and gun girly. Also, one of the bosses is legitimately kind of freaky. Oh, I wish this was a spoiler-filled review sometimes. This game is really fun and oddly relaxing once you get more used to the gameplay loop, and so I would highly check it out if you're looking for something that is easy but also provides a bit of a challenge every now and again. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle is a tactical RPG crossover between the beloved Mario franchise and the infamous Raving Rabbids franchise. After a malfunction with the bizarre time-traveling washing machine results in the Rabbids being transported to the Mushroom Kingdom, and a strange rabbit creature named Spawny starts accidentally merging a bunch of random objects together. None of what I'm reading makes sense, does it? Anyways, Mario teams up with friends and Rabbids alike to save the Mushroom Kingdom from hostile mutated Rabbids that are wreaking havoc. So bear with me for a second, I'm gonna be vulnerable. There was a period in my life where I don't even know how this happened, but I obsessively wrote fan fiction back in the day before I even knew what fan fiction was. And in my own little 12-year-old world, I somehow came up with the idea of having the Mario Brothers universe intersect with the Rabbids universe, and a couple of others there, but that's not relevant to the story. Don't ask me where these ideas came from, but I think the morphogenetic field was hard at work that day because I don't know otherwise who would come up with this idea unless it was like shared in some big metaphysical space. I don't know why this game exists, nor why it's this good. Kingdom Battle is a pretty simple tactical RPG based on my limited research into the genre, so it was a great introduction to the gameplay style, and it's encouraged me to look into the genre more in the future. It provided a genuine challenge for my inexperienced ass, but it didn't make me rage quit. The mechanics are kept simple and streamlined while providing enough variety that I never felt limited. Except for the fact that I couldn't have a team of 2 Luigis and a Rabbid Peach, but that's not a problem in the sequel, so we'll just pretend that isn't an issue. Kingdom Battle just oozes with charm, in no small part thanks to the passion that clearly went into this project. I can't fathom that this was at any point just a low-effort cash grab. The soundtrack is stellar. It's entirely orchestral and composed by Grant Kirkhope, aka the composer for Donkey Kong 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. 90% of the characters don't speak, so the animation speaks for them, and the animation is surprisingly good. It's full of personality, it's smooth, it's well polished, except for one boss's hair, but I'm gonna chalk that up to graphical limitations. I think this was the starting point when Nintendo really ramped up the animation budget for the Mario franchise, and I think that was a great decision. The game has never looked better. And there's this one specific boss in the third world, if you know, you know, that has no reason to go as hard as it does and is a top contender for one of my favorite bosses of all time. And granted, I believe I have a higher baseline appreciation for the Rabbids series than most people do, only because I have no familiarity with the Rayman series at all. But I really like the original Rabbid characters, especially Rabbid Peach, and it's a completely unironic enjoyment. Aside from her being one of the most practical and useful party members, I really like her attitude and I like the way that she's animated. I think she's really adorable, and that's one of the reasons why I'm drawing her, even though I had another opportunity to draw my beloved. I have a lot of weird comfort characters. This game is not high art by any means whatsoever, but I love it. It's really fun. I believe there's a free demo if you want to check it out, because I think it's completely worth the price. Cult of the Lamb is a roguelike dungeon crawler where you play as the last surviving lamb who is saved from a grisly execution by the One Who Waits, a god of death, who now tasks you to start a cult in his name and kill the 4 remaining bishops of the old faith. Build and manage your cult, brave strange surreal lands, and unlock new divine powers to finish your holy quest. I have 2 real strong impulses constantly at war with one another. One is to create a found family out of a bunch of characters, and the other is to cause unspeakable damage to all of them. Despite what my coworkers would think with how I talk about The Sims, I'm not an overly sadistic player. I don't derive joy from getting the bad endings, whether for completionist's sake or just out of curiosity. It's not in my nature. This goes double for games that require you to play the whole game over again in order to get a different ending. There are a couple games that I'm thinking of in specific, and they know what they are. It's a lot easier for me to tap into my evil side when there's not really anything prohibiting me from kind of backtracking on it, or the game doesn't go out of its way to make me feel bad for doing so. Cult of the Lamb gives me plenty of opportunities to be as evil, but also as kind as I want. Despite the cute cartoony design, this is a bona fide cult that indulges in all sorts of things such as brainwashing, sacrifices, murder, financial abuse, cannibalism, literal shit-eating. It doesn't pull its punches. But it also doesn't force you to be all of those evil things and provides alternatives if you're also occasionally a softie like I am. You can be nice and dance with your cultists, make your whole cult vegetarian, hold proper funerals for the deceased, offer them free vacations. Of course, you're still in a cult, so you could still be a largely benevolent cult leader, though. I ended ended up somewhere in the middle where I genuinely tried to treat my cultists with kindness, kept them all healthy, tried to solve problems peacefully, welcomed in as many as I could, even if they were old or sick or dissenting. I did also order my coven to eat our dead, ritually forced the old people to fight to the death, and regularly sacrificed my 4 spouses so that I could have the max number of hearts when I resurrected. I also encased my 3rd spouse in gold because they were already an elder, kind of annoying, and they did try to kill my other 2 spouses a few times. So I think that's a pretty justifiable reason to banish them to hell. Well, it's not hell, it's just, I guess it's a hell all of its own. The cult building aspect was the main reason I wanted to play Cult of the Lamb so much, but even after that, I found myself enjoying the dungeon crawling sections too, much more than I expected that I would. Insert comment here about challenging but not too challenging that I've already said for the past 2 games and will probably say again. I was not looking to destroy my dwindling sanity last year more than I already had. One of the other things that I appreciate about this game, just kind of on a very small level, is that I can't think of any other examples that portray non-monogamous relationships, polyamorous individuals, and even has a canonical non-binary god. Now, of course, I don't think I can necessarily call these positive representations because, cults, but it's not villainized either, and I really like that. I also do personally find it very funny that celibate is considered a flaw in this game. Maybe that's not the most healthy reaction, maybe it's slightly problematic, but I thought it was kind of funny, and I allowed my little critters to be asexual if they wanted to. Not that asexuality and celibacy is necessarily, you know what, we're not doing deep analysis, shut up! I know that there's supposed to be further updates coming out at some point in the future, and I'm very excited for when they come out because I want to see what else this game has to offer. But there's plenty for you to investigate and enjoy right now if you want to. How do I explain this game without spoiling anything? I don't know if it's possible. Okay, so if you want to remain completely blind to everything about Slay the Princess, skip to this time code. But if you still want to hear my general thoughts about it without spoilers, just know that this game features 2 very talented voice actors. I cried 3 times playing this game, once when I first played it back at the start of 2024, and then twice when I was replaying it to get footage for this video. And I may need to make a video about this game at some point because I'm obsessed with it, but otherwise, that's all you really need to know if you want no spoilers. If you don't care about minor spoilers though, this is what Slay the Princess is. Slay the Princess is a multi-route visual novel where you are on a quest to slay a princess held captive in the basement of a cabin in the woods. If you don't, the world will end. You're guided and influenced by the voice of the narrator, someone who wants you to slay the princess, and the voice of the hero, who believes you ought to save her. What you do after that will not only shape how the story goes, but who you and the princess wind up being. And that's all I'm going to say. Allow me to present to you a dramatic reenactment of when I first played this game.
I'm talking about the end of everything as we know it.
Is that motherfucking Jonathan Sims from the Magnus Archives and the Mechanisms? Oh my god! I am deeply haunted thinking about all of the people who have played Slay the Princess but may have no idea who Jonathan Sims is in other projects and the sheer psychological damage that this man is capable of. You guys don't know. This game has 2 voice actors, Jonathan Sims, who voices the hero and the narrator, and Nicole Goodnight, who voices the princess. That itself may not seem surprising since there's really only 3 characters in the story, but what's impressive is that though they're only playing 3 different characters, they're called to play several different portrayals of the same 2 characters. And oh my god, the range, the chemistry, the banter. So many praises to these 2. So lovely. With the variety of story paths you can take, You get to see these two bring to life all the different variations of the hero and the princess. You know that it's the same voice actor. They don't try to mask that. But they're able to sell you that each time you hear their voice, you're listening to a new version of the story. Not because they sound unlike themselves, but because of how they choose to portray that specific version of their respective character. The whole concept of this game too is just right up my alley. I grew up loving fairy tales, not because of the love at first sight or one true love aspect, unsurprisingly, but because I was fascinated by how the same basic story could be told over and over again, but details or characterizations would change depending on who was telling the story or the culture that variation of the story came from. Obviously, 12-year-old me didn't have the same handle of language that I do now, but I think that's why I liked them. Nowadays, I still love reimaginings of fairy tales and mythologies when they're not just cash grabs, Disney. Slay the Princess bottles that experience into one complete game with an original story and more mature themes. This is elevated by the hand-drawn art style, making it look like something straight out of a picture book, and orchestral music that brings back memories of the classic Disney princess movies. So until the day I find it within myself the power to confront this game yet again to make a video about it, you should play this game for yourself. Several times. Please. You need to be damaged. Balatro or Balatro or whatever is a roguelike deck building game that is basically just poker, except it's nowhere near that simple. You have to keep scoring a certain amount of points during each round, with it progressively getting higher each time you complete an ante. So what you have to do is upgrade your hands, your cards, and rely on the clusterfuckery that is the dozens of different jokers that affect the rules of your scoring. This game is crack. It's a fairly easy game to pick up since it's essentially just poker. But if you've never played poker before, or if you're like me and your poker experience starts and ends in Luigi's Casino, you're still going to be able to figure out how the game works and its mechanics within the first 5 rounds or so. So it's a pretty shallow learning curve. Or is it? Aesthetic-wise though, no notes. The graphics are clean and colorful, the simple UI is intuitive, the singular song provides mesmerizing background music, the sound design activates my monkey brain. It's nothing unique, but it's exactly what it needed to be. What makes Balatro addicting compared to the other deck building games I've dabbled in is that it prevents gaming complacency. There's 150 different jokers, several different card decks with different rules, stakes, challenges, power-ups. There are so many different ways to play this game, and no 2 runs will ever be exactly the same. You're forced to adjust favored strategies the longer you play, because one strategy that works for a couple different runs may be completely unsustainable in others for any number of reasons. You've got a completely different rule set to play by, you can't find the joker that made your strategy work, or you may just have bad luck. As evidenced by the fact that I got this bastard without even trying, even after it took Foss like 3 days of concentrated effort to 100% his Joker collection. Suck it! You have to figure out how to work with the options you have, and rely on prior experimentations to build the best set of Jokers that you can. The goofiest strat I ever employed was reliant exclusively on 3 Jokers with the black deck. Swashbuckler, which is a card that added the sell value of your cards to the multiplier, the Joker Stencil, which adds your multiplier for every Joker slot you have empty, and an egg, which added $3 to the sell value at the end of every round. And I fucking cleared that challenge without even trying to. On one hand, I don't feel like it should have worked because it was so stupid and I came up with it by the seat of my pants, but on the other hand, it makes perfect sense why it did work. Balatro is really fun, you need to try it, trust the process, trust the egg. Hey, cut the music. Let's get a little bit more serious for a second. So a while back, I got burnt out on character-driven mystery games because it had been a depressingly long time since I got one I could really sink my teeth into. I finished up the original Ace Attorney trilogy, and I heard mixed things about the Apollo Justice series, so I wanted to hold off on that one. We all know how I felt about Rank Code. Nirvana Initiative was entertaining, but it really wasn't that good. Paranormicide was... Actually, I'm not going to get into that one. I don't think I need to. but my whole channel was basically started off by me yelling for half an hour about these games, and so it was moderately rattling, and I was starting to get disillusioned with the genre as a whole. Then murders on the Yangtze River happened, and it completely renewed that hope. Murders on the Yangtze River is a murder mystery visual novel taking place in early 20th century China. You play as a young traveling detective named Sheng Chengping, who is tasked with solving several murder mysteries of those living along the Yangtze River, all the while trying to solve a murder mystery of his own. Murders on the Yangtze River wears its inspiration on its sleeve in some of the sprite poses and splash art, none of which I will complain about. And it even has a section on the front screen that calls out its inspiration by name. That's pretty cool. But unlike other games that I would criticize in the same genre, it's not derivative of the other games, and it doesn't call attention to those other games within the narrative proper. The mysteries that you solve are so much more complex than anything I've played before. Nothing is spoon-fed to you, so you're going to feel like an idiot at first. Because solving the mystery requires you to remember innocuous details that aren't directly pointed out by the characters, and the puzzles you solve sometimes require you to actually, think logically about how certain pieces fit together based on the placement of certain items or locations or schedules. But it all follows a consistent line of logic that ends up making sense. The overarching connecting plot, too, is something I haven't seen before in these types of games and really loved. As mentioned before, Shen is motivated throughout this entire novel by one singular goal, and his journey in pursuit of that is what puts him in contact with all these other mysteries he ends up solving, most of which pertaining to the actual larger mystery at play. There are some ridiculously fun ways that this game subverts your expectations, and there was this one moment in specific where I lost my marbles. It was so fucking good. Also, it must be mentioned that I love the way that Chinese culture and history was woven into the game. I won't get too deep into it, as some of it I think is best experienced alongside the story, but I want to call attention to the voice acting. This is a game featuring primarily Chinese voice actors and some white English boys too. You could do that thing where you have the native language's audio but the dialogue is written in English, which I've come around to accepting that that's the preferred way I like to play these kinds of games, but that's a side story. Some of the characters are bilingual in Chinese and English, and it's really refreshing because when they speak English, you clearly hear their native accent. Some of it is more pronounced than others. I don't know the reasons behind this, whether it was due to finances or creative choice or whatever, but I really liked it. It makes sense within the narrative, and it just adds this extra layer of realism. And speaking of characters, please forgive me, but I need to pretend to be straight for a second. Take me now! I'll be completely honest with y'all. I love this game so much, I was this close to naming it my top pick for 2024. And that should really speak to the quality of this game. I cannot endorse it enough, you should play it, and I think that based on my general audience, this is the game that you guys would be most likely to enjoy. Really, check this game out. But if you want to know the one game that knocked it out of first place, buckle up. But before we get to that, you know what time it is. It's honorable mention time. These are the games that I enjoyed playing the previous year as well, but I have less to say about them, so I want to briefly mention them just to make sure that they get on people's radars. I already talked about this game for quite a while. I made a video about it, so you should check it out. This game is ambitious. There's a lot wrong with it, but there's just something about this game that I really find myself, it's the soundtrack. It's always the soundtrack. Just listen to this shit. I'm a whore for the Super Mario Bros. Franchise. Any opportunity to play Luigi is an opportunity I'm going to take. I'll be completely honest, I did not like the second half of this game nearly as much as the first, but there's a very clear dividing point where if the second half of the game didn't happen, first game would be easy A tier. Easy. This was the very first game I ever beat in my life, and knowing that it was dropping on the Nintendo Switch was the last thing I needed to push me over the edge and just finally buy the damn thing for myself. Alright, those are all done. Enough dilly-dallying. Let's talk about my favorite game of this year. But first, a little context. 2024 was an interesting year for me when it came to video games. A lot of the games that I played were sequels to stuff that I talked about in my past Game Awards video, but they were underwhelming. The Class of 09, The Flip Side, was fine, but not nearly as funny as the re-up. Rise of the Golden Idol had some fun moments, but only one case really was on par to the original, and my boy Peter Batley didn't show up, so what's even the point? Darkest Dungeon 2 is video-worthy in how complicated my feelings are towards it. And thank your stars that I don't talk about television series yet, cause the seasonal rot is real and it has destroyed my soul. Netflix, your days are numbered. I won't forgive you. And with every sequel that I played, the more that I hoped the next one would be better, and it wouldn't be. It wouldn't. It was demoralizing. There was only one sequel left that I was really banking all of my hopes on. But as the month of December drew closer to its end, and it still hadn't released, I was beginning to lose all hope. Again. But then, on December 30th, it dropped. A sequel that not only lived up to my expectations and surpassed them, but a sequel that was so good that it was worthy to be crowned my favorite game of 2024 and delayed production on this video by at least a month. Woohoo! Oh. Friends and enemies, it is my deep pleasure to announce to you that my favorite game of 2024 is Misericord Volume 2, White Wool and Snow. Like the previous installment, White Wool and Snow is a visual novel about a group of nuns living in Lynneborough Abbey during 15th century England. Sister Hedwig, after spending almost 2 decades in religious solitude as an anchoress, rejoins the congregation to help figure out who murdered the late Sister Catherine. As of the second volume, without delving into spoilers, because you will be playing this game, guys, Sister Hedwig is under more pressure to solve the murder of her late sister, but is making little progress. The leads she has are shaky at best and downright crazy at worst. So to find out the true murderer of Catherine, she has to get her hands dirty and delve deep into the darkest secrets of not only Lynneborough Abbey, but of her sisters as well. Excuse me, I need to balance the classic scales. Take me, Mother! It's... God. I want to tell you how good the sequel is. I want to tell you how I grew to love each of the characters more than before. I want to tell you about how great the plot is, how witty the writing is, how I was left with my jaw on the ground every half hour, how beautiful the art style is, how there is so much I love about this game, how this game made me cackle and hurt me in ways I'm still not quite over yet. But I do not have time to do so. Not today. Kendrick Lamar is going to be performing soon. But it's on my docket. I'm already working on the outline, still thinking about the script, and I've got a tomato-shaped voice in my head helping me keep on track. It's coming. Soon. Ish. What does soon mean anymore? My love for this series is not something that I can fully express to you in the time that we have left today. So, I will leave you with this. The Misericord series is a hidden gem of a visual novel that feels like a real novel, from the prose to the characterization to the plotting, and there's only one actual complaint I have about it, and that's negligible enough to not sour my overall love of Misericord. It's charming, it's hilarious, it's sad, it's surprising, it's truly one of a kind, and you guys should play it. And that is going to be all for today. Thanks again, everybody, for sticking around and somehow getting this channel past 10,000 subscribers. I honestly never expect that I would get this far, and I don't even know if it's a number that will last forever. But the fact that we got here is really awesome, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Especially after disappearing for 9 months and just kind of changing up what I've done. I really appreciate all of you guys sticking around, and just thank you. I will think of something to do to celebrate it. It's probably going to be belated, but thanks. I also don't quite know what the future of this channel is going to look like. A lot of changes are happening that, frankly, scare me. And I'm going to guess that they scare quite a few of you too. But as long as I still can, I want to be a spot of positivity. I want to make people smile. I want to make them laugh. I want to make people have an escape from all of this bullshit that's going on. I'm going to leave some links down below for you guys if you want to find support or if you want to help however you can. There are so many things that need help right now. I'm just one individual, you're just one individual, but we're going to get through it. So in the meantime, please take care of yourselves, look after the ones that you love, and above all else, find a reason to survive. Because my reason is I'm fucking full of spite, and here's to 2025 and to all of us. I hope that things get better. They're gonna get worse before they get better, but things have to get better. Until then, I'm happy to be a source of entertainment for you all. I am gonna go get ready to watch the Super Bowl, and until next time, I hope to see you guys again soon. Take care, everybody. This is TinyLeaf, signing off.